After the review of the conversation with this one that goes by Yaju Judah, we will also review the following conversation that took place with these three very gracious angels. And of course the following is not at them, but for anyone who feels anything like the comment here at the bottom, after listening and hearing to what is shared, of course come forward with an actual rebuttal to what is seen here if you dare, let alone this one here, for example, who wrote this and I tagged in the last video that I placed. And of course there was no response. So if anyone wishes to actually try to challenge any of this, don't just huff and puff and play pretend in between your own ears like this comment here. Here we will begin with the first conversation.
What's up? I can hear you.
Excellent. I can hear you now. Just to be very forefront, straight out, I'm the actual line of Christ. I know that you were just speaking with a gentleman here who was saying the same thing. And I was looking to schedule a formal debate with you, but I figured we can have a little bit of a conversation here just to begin if you're willing.
You say you want to set a debate up with me?
Yes.
And are you a leader of a congregation or anything?
Not in the way that you were discussing with the gentleman before me, but one more time, I am the true line of Christ.
I know what I'm saying, but are you a leader of any organization?
Not of those camps you've dealt with before, no.
I'm talking about any organization. Are you a leader of any organization?
Okay, well then without having to get into any of that, you and I can have just a brief conversation here then, correct?
Are you going to answer the question?
Of the organizations you've been mentioning, I said no, I have nothing to do with them.
Are you a leader of any organization?
I'm the actual line of Christ, so whoever considers himself a true follower of Christ, well then I am that head.
So no, I would not debate you.
Okay, well then...
I have some people that might debate you. I won't waste my time.
Well, that's no problem. Can I ask you a question then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You have claimed that you're the son of David through Ethiopia, correct?
I'm the son of David because God has anointed me.
You stated earlier that that is through Ethiopia, did you not?
Yeah, I'm going back to Ethiopia. That's where the throne is at. The throne is in Ethiopia.
Now, 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 13 states that King Solomon gave the Queen of Sheba all she desired and asked for, then goes on to state, besides what he had given her out of his royal bounty or treasury. It still does not explicitly state that Solomon and the Queen of Sheba had a child. And of course, with the throne of David, the house of Israel, being through Solomon, one would have to be directly of his lineage to even make such a claim, let alone be the actual one, as Solomon of course had children. And not only that, there was still Rehoboam that reigned after Solomon directly in Jerusalem, as we are about to go over here in a moment. So what I am about to state next is based completely off of the Kebra Nagast and excerpts from the book of Ben Sira, as these are the only renowned texts which state or suggest that there was any throne of Solomon's in Ethiopia, as you will hear him claim once more. And of course, if he is not going off of even alleged documentation, then he plainly just made it up.
The throne is in Ethiopia.
Now hold on, Solomon did have a son with the Queen of Sheba who was in Ethiopia. However, he also had a son whom was still reigning in Jerusalem at that time. You are aware of that, correct?
No, I don't believe that.
What do you mean you don't believe it? According to your own, so you don't believe Ethiopia's national record, but yet you claim you go by it.
Solomon and Sheba is a parable for the anointed one.
Solomon.
Like Joseph and Mary is a parable for the anointed one.
So you're stating that the Ethiopian national record is just a parable?
Correct.
So now that we have established that his claim to being the son of David is strictly based off of parable that ultimately he just made up, and if you observe him for any period of time whatsoever, you will see that he basically begins to claim that everything is ultimately simply a parable with no actual historical fact behind it. So though there are of course things in the Bible which are clearly parable and metaphoric, there is also what is absolutely literal, and we are about to get into more concrete evidence of that here now.
Could you explain then how 1 Kings, which describes the reign of Solomon, when you date back the 480 years that is listed there, is actually dating back to the date which is the Exodus? How is it these... What was that?
What date is in the Bible?
Say that one more time.
What date is in the Bible?
Yes, it speaks of Solomon's beginning reign in 1 Kings chapter 6 verse 1. You can pull it up yourself right now.
What date is in the Bible?
Yes, it's dated via all the historic records to go back to 967 BC. When you retrace back, I'm telling you right now, you didn't allow me to finish.
I said, what date is in the Bible?
What date is in the Bible? Yes, it's the historical records that you must line up with the Bible. And if you're asking...
That's what I said. Okay. So there's no dates in the Bible. So who put the dates on the historical record? Was it the prophets?
First off, you just said there's no dates in the Bible, and then you asked me who put the dates on the historical records. What are you talking about?
So you said I got to line the historical records up with the Bible. So who created the historical records?
You answered that question, but that's not what you said. You asked me for specific dates in the Bible, trying to be coy.
Did the prophets create the historical dates that we follow?
God creates all the dates, obviously, as listed in Genesis, that when it made the sun, the moon, and the stars, that's for keeping track of time.
So God created the dates we follow, BC? God created BC?
God created every form of tracking time that we have. That is why the book of Enoch, which you know is also in the Ethiopian canon, the book of Enoch displays a 364-day calendar, which also, speaking of biblical proof, is expressed throughout the pyramids in the world. Anyone here looks up the pyramid in quote-unquote Chichen Itza, they will see it's called the calendar pyramid, and it expresses the very same calendar which is overlaid in book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 2, also in Jubilees, also in Enoch.
Holdings that it was indeed Enoch which architected the pyramids. Again, further proof as to this fact are found in my other sharings, such as over 80 mathematical and physical constants, such as pi being encoded within the Great Pyramid, a mathematical constant which the Egyptians, the Sumerians, and overall Babylonians were all off by the numbers in which they were. Once more, this demonstrated in other sharings, which of course you can look up. For years, it was claimed that pi was written in error in 1 Kings and in 2 Chronicles, mistakenly recorded as 3. However, when reading just a little further, an important detail is noted which reflects that it was completely accurate as to the mathematical constant of pi, as you see here. Miraculous alignments via letters infused with numbers serving as mathematical devices completely aligns the book of Isaiah chapter 19 verses 19 and 20 with the Great Pyramid itself, as every letter equates out to 5,449, which is ultimately the height in pyramid inches up to the capstone summit of the Great Pyramid. This trait of perfect precision is a unique signature as to the gematria being original to the Hebrews, and what was ultimately an imitation of gematria by the Babylonians called Aru, is renowned to have not been able to be the origin of gematria, as it assigned values to whole words arbitrarily. In other words, the values were just made up for whatever reasons and alignments there were in the moment. Moreover, this degree of intimate knowledge of the pyramid is further proof of it indeed being architected by Enoch. And as displayed here, the accuracy of that scripture being as the pyramid is literally in the middle, in the midst of Egypt. As also Giza can mean border. Now once more, here we see a display of intricate knowledge of the pyramid, and it is more than worth noting that when the philosopher known as Thales asked the height of the Great Pyramid, no one could tell him what it was. In fact, the king of Egypt was impressed as to how he ascertained the height, all the more proving that it was indeed Abraham, after being taught what was preserved by Noah, that explained astrology and other sciences to the Egyptians and the Babylonians. Solidifying all the more that knowledge was preserved into the Great Pyramid prior to the Great Flood is the fact that scans and translations of the Dead Sea Scrolls reveal the description of Noah's Ark as a pyramid. And here you are about to see shown all the more that the Molapan star catalog, star map, renowned for its accuracy, actually originated from the astronomical teachings of Enoch, as you are about to see how the calendar itself has been embedded in what is renowned as the Castle Pyramid, as well as the Calendar Pyramid, further proving Genesis 11 verse 1. It is true that The cosmic order of the very stars, by their organization, is in sync exactly with the calendar, and proof of exactly that is the castle, a calendar represented in stone, both with its architectural layout of having a body of water underneath, such as renowned to be the case with the pyramids around the world, and also representing the calendar of the angels with its features. It proves all the more Genesis chapter 11 verse 1 that all the world was of one language. And reinforcement of that is that it is held that the 7 lighted triangles and the 6 dark triangles, which takes place at both the spring and the autumn, the fall equinox, represent the 7 days of creation, of course, exactly just as the account of Genesis. This masterful genius, displayed, channeled through architecture by the grace of God, shows that this calendar has been and is indeed perfect, let alone without calendar drift, as precisely 182 days pass between the 2 equinoxes, 182 days, of course, being half of the 364-day year. And if need be, perhaps in the near future, we can do a recount to make sure to reaffirm this fact, that the arrangement of the very stars follows the order within the calendar passed down since Adam and Eve. Thus, the phenomena at the castle pyramid. And just as there are 4 dimensions of time and space, and also the number 7, as in Genesis, stands for a cycle in time, we see that the 364-day calendar is divisible by both 4 and 7. And now here we'll see the very features of the calendar castle pyramid, which represent the 364-day calendar which was passed down to Enoch since Adam and Eve, preserved through the flood since Noah and Amzara to their children, preserved and protected through time down to the warrior angels in Qumran. Now to the features of that very calendar etched into an edifice, into this work of art, which proves Genesis 11 verse 1, that all the world was of one language.
In the Dead Sea Scrolls, we have numerous documents who are talking about solar calendar, of pre-calculated calendar emerging, commencing in the spring. While the Jewish calendar, known to all of you who are following the Jewish calendar, is starting in the autumn. The current Jewish calendar is starting in the autumn, in the month of Tishrei, while the biblical calendar states explicitly that the calendar starts in the spring. In the book of Exodus 12, we are told that the calendar is commencing in the months of the spring, the first months of the year, where the year is starting as a divine declaration of the beginning of freedom, of the epoch of freedom. It is given up in the time where the story of the departure from Egypt, the exodus from Egypt, then there is a calendar introduced, and it is said, this month, the month of the spring, is the head of the year or the first of the month. You would always start to count from the first month. Is the presence of a solar calendar, a calendar which the writers ascribe to a mythical ancient past. The people who had authored the book of First Enoch, it's called the Ethiopian Enoch because it was first known to us in the language of Giz, which is an Ethiopian language, Semitic Ethiopian language. In the book of Enoch, chapter 72-82, is telling us in great detail on the calendar of 364 days. In the book of Psalms that had been found in Qumran, entirely different genre, Psalms. In the extra Psalms, those which are not known to us in the Bible, in the Psalm scrolls which is presented in the shrine of the book, in column 27 we are told that David, king of Israel, the one who had been described as wise and as poetically gifted and as a prophet according to this scroll, had authored 364 daily songs for each day of the year. He further had authored 52 sacred songs for every one of the Sabbaths of the years. He further authored 18 special songs for the holidays of the year. Now, in entirely different kind of genre, let's say the book of Jubilees, which is para-biblical because it is retelling the book of Genesis. In the book of Jubilees, we are told that Noah had stayed in the ark 364 days, which are divided equally to 4 seasons of 91 days, commencing in the spring. The same is true for the scroll of priestly watches, which is worked on a calendar of 364 days. The same is true to a letter called Miktzat Maaseh Torah, a few observations on the acts of the Torah. The scroll is commencing with a calendar telling us that the first week of the year starts in the spring, and there are 52 weeks in every year, and in each week a different priestly scroll is serving according to a calendar of 364 days. Now, the centrality of the solar calendar could not be exaggerated in the library of Qumran. As I said, in various different genres, in various different literary modes, the centrality of the calendar is put forward. It was a priestly calendar, divided according to the priestly sevenfold divisions. Because if there was anything sacred to the priestly calendar, it was the following assertion: the covenant between God and his people is based on the following fact: every 7 day one should not work on a Sabbath. Every 7 holidays of the first 7 months of the year, one must refrain from work according to the biblical law.
With the knowledge passed down through Enoch is the architectural trait of the alignment with the stars, as well as the bodies of water found underneath the pyramids. This trait overlays with the body of water described to be flowing from underneath the temple outlined within Ezekiel and seen in temples, castles, pyramids throughout the world. These streams These lakes of water, of liquid, are just as much purposeful as they are beautiful. This characteristic in design is found throughout the world, as we are seeing here. And being as purposeful as they are beautiful, these channels of water underneath these edifices are held to serve for the purposes of physio-electricity. Furthermore, directly aligning with the records that the sons of Seth, son of Adam, built 2 pillars, 2 columns in which they inscribed their knowledge, one of stone and one of brick, directly align with the Black Pyramid and the Great Pyramids. The Black Pyramid is made of mud brick, and of course the Great Pyramids of granite and limestone. And as we continue to catch up to beginning to understand that original knowledge, we see that the extents of science today are now able to see what has been constructed beneath the pyramids all the more, such as here under the Black Pyramid and also the Great Pyramids.
A radar scan of the Khafre Pyramid, conducted by researchers from the University of Pisa and the University of Strathclyde, has reignited serious interest in what might be hidden deep beneath this ancient site. According to their interpretation, 5 previously unknown chamber-like structures appear to lie within the pyramid itself. These chambers are said to connect to a system of pathways descending below the surface. Deeper still, the scans revealed 8 vast vertical formations, described as wells or shafts, stretching more than 6,500 feet across and descending over 2,000 feet underground, or shafts. stretching more than 6,500 feet across and descending over 2,000 feet underground. Spiral patterns within these structures have been interpreted as winding ramps or internal stairways. Below these shafts, the team identified two massive rectangular enclosures, each measuring approximately 260 feet across. According to their findings, each enclosure contains 4 additional shafts, extending downward from the surface of the structure, adding another layer to what they believe may be an immense subterranean complex. The radar signals were sent from 2 satellites over 400 miles above Earth and transformed into 3D models, forming what the team believes could be the outline of a vast hidden system beneath the plateau.
And now, of course, I have any quote opposing view to address this. Here we will return to the conversation.
But the thing about it is, that's according to God's prophecy. That's not according to the days that we follow. Enoch was speaking of a prophetic vision of the last day.
You're completely wrong. I just spoke of the calendar that Enoch literally put forward being expressed in a pyramid, which also displays Genesis 11 verse 1 being literal fact that the whole earth was of one language. And literally, that calendar being, quote, in Mexico shows you that literally this was the case. No one expected anyone from the line of Israelites at all to be in that region during this place and time, but yet that calendar is there. And Yaju, the Mayan elders hold that the phenomena which takes place at the equinox twice a year literally represents the 7 days of creation, which you know is exclusive to Genesis. Explain how that is a parable.
I want to ask you this. When the Bible says the devil deceived...
So you just... Go ahead.
What part? How many people did the devil deceive?
Are you saying that a calendar expressed in a pyramid is deception?
How many people did the devil deceive? Just answer the question.
Oh, no, because nobody's being deceived by what I said. Are you saying that a phenomenon taking place at the equinox is being deceived, is deception? Anybody can look this up. Yaju, don't look silly here. Anybody can look this up. Don't look silly here.
Brother man, that's why Christ comes with the mysteries of God. You can't look these up on Google. You can't get it out of a book. You got to get it from the mouth.
It was a mystery to you.
Brother man, this is what I'm asking you. Just answer the question, brother. Don't make this hard. I'm going to move on.
You don't have to.
So, how many people did the devil deceive?
Now once more, being as he turns everything into a parable, of course there was no need to get into speaking of how some red thing with horns of course doesn't actually exist. So here we will stick straight to the point, whereas I just displayed what the actual original calendar of the human being by the grace of God actually is. And when we speak of how many have been deceived, here you see where our original Sabbath, whereas the 7-day week, which is modeled off of the original blueprint from Genesis till this very day, when you look at a calendar, the Sabbath is what we call Saturday, and Sunday you will see appears as the first day, followed by Monday being the second day, and so on, as these days are named in this language today. So after this truth being revealed to you, who continues to allow themselves to be deceived by these Romans, who will find out they ultimately never won any war at all, and everything that has happened has ultimately only been to grandize God, as you pretenders are nothing to be playing chess with it. So let's see whom faces its actual line of Christ, whose voice you are hearing right now. So just as by the grace of God in the beginning was the very start of time and space, here we begin by correcting this deception directly with the keeping of time and clearing up all other matters of truth by the grace of God.
How many people did the devil deceive?
At what place and time are you talking about? You keep telling people that some things are for end time prophecies. You keep telling people some things were in the past. What are you talking about?
Can you answer the question, Professor?
I just did.
So, how many people did the devil deceive?
I just answered your question. Are you saying that what I said is a deception?
I'm asking you a question, brother. I'm asking you again. How many people did the devil deceive?
I already answered your question. Yes, I did. Now, okay, no problem. I said that sometimes you talk about these prophecies as if they were only something to come in the quote end times. And sometimes you talk about them, you like to refer back to history. Good boy. Good boy.
Now here in this conversation, I speak with three angels who were completely graceful in the way in which they conducted themselves and truly exemplified being royalty of God itself, as ultimately we all are. Now, after already confirming that the claim that the throne was in Ethiopia was not based on Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, as we heard earlier in the previous conversation. So after hearing these angels speaking once more of the throne being in Ethiopia, as you see within the messages here in their comment section, I begin to remind of facts such as Moses indeed married an Ethiopian woman, but of course he is an Israelite of the tribe of Levi. And not only that, but of course as serves as an example as to a lot of the things angels still face in this very day and age when it comes to quote nationalities or quote colors. Of course, what came up with regards to Aaron and Miriam inquiring in regards to his marrying an Ethiopian, as of course we see brought up again in regards to the genealogy of King David, indeed being the 10th generation from Perez, counting from Judah.
There's plenty of scriptures that talk about the throne of David.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Excuse me, let me try to turn this up. I can't hear you at the moment. There we are. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Thank you. I was calling in. I actually spoke briefly with Yaju before. Mine is the actual legitimate line of Christ. And I was calling to discuss the throne actually being in Jerusalem, not Ethiopia.
Well, isn't there going to be a new Jerusalem?
Well, the thing is that, again, the New Jerusalem is not actually in regards to moving the geographical location, because then that would be what you were discussing in regards to the Romans trying to change where things are actually at.
Well, brother, you believe Jerusalem is in the Middle East?
What you just called it was basically a more so common slang to call Jerusalem.
What Jerusalem are you talking about?
The only Jerusalem that there is.
The one in the Middle East.
The one in Israel.
In the Middle East.
Remember, did Sheba, who came from Ethiopia, she came from Ethiopia to Israel, correct? If that is the case, then she wasn't leaving from Ethiopia to Ethiopia. She went from Ethiopia to Israel to see Solomon.
Well, first you have to understand that the Bible is sealed. So what you're reading is off of your own interpretation, your private interpretation.
That pertains to Yaju,
Jerusalem
not
is
me.
a mind frame. It's not a place on the map. The Romans stole the scrolls and they gave you and they put these names on the map to deceive you. They came in and divided Africa.
First of all, the Ethiopian Bible is not the oldest. It is the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were found in Israel, in Qumran. The Dead Sea Scrolls predate the Ethiopian Bible by hundreds of years, literally. Anyone can look this up.
The Dead Sea Scrolls say the same thing. What you talking about?
That's why they weren't corrupted, as she just mentioned. But the oldest version of it is in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is in Israel.
Now, of course, in another sharing, we can go over the Roman attempts to try to corrupt our records. However, the Dead Sea Scrolls do ultimately reflect consistency and the accuracy of biblical records.
Brother, Israel was put on the map in the 1900s.
Angel, no, it was not.
And though, of course, speaking of a quote-unquote state is a conversation for another time, as it is in the moment, yet and still, as we are seeing here, ancient Israel, Yisrael, is found on maps well before the 1900s. And soon within this sharing, we will also take a look at the accuracy of locations named in the Bible, overlaying with the modern day maps.
Where is there a destroyed temple? Where is there a destroyed temple in Ethiopia?
The Solomonic dynasty, the throne of David is not restored.
As I just said, where is there a destroyed temple in Ethiopia, Angel?
The temple is not a real building, brother.
Angel, then what is the Ark of Titus commemorating destroying in Rome?
Brother, I think the thing is that you don't understand that what you're reading is parables, is allegory.
Sweet.
It's for the last days. It's not something that happened in the past.
My angel, the Ark of Titus is not even letters. It is literally commemorating the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. A Ark of Titus, which stands till this day in Rome. There is no destroyed temple in Ethiopia. Perhaps I could have this conversation with Yaju at a different time. I tried to, but he ran from me, literally. I did not appreciate that.
I didn't think you run. I think it's the fact that you're not trying to listen to what we're saying. You have to empty your cup. You have knowledge of what you think you know. You don't really know. I'm sorry, before I call him your husband, are you married to Yaju? I'm just trying not to disrespect you. Yes.
Okay. Your husband asked me, how many people did the devil deceive? And he asked me this in a literal fashion. And as much as he likes to talk about parables, obviously asking me that would be a parable. And especially at a time like this, when there are people that actually think that we are at the end of the year, when the calendar, the original calendar of the angel, passed down since Adam and Eve, is a 364-day calendar, which is expressed even in pyramids throughout the world. Ultimately, time reveals all by the grace of God. And literally, as you angels are thinking that you are not deceived or anything like this, you should really hold that question in the mirror. And as you see here, along with other cowardly Roman pushes, it was ultimately the punk Constantine which literally attempted to forbid resting on the Sabbath. And to whoever just asked me in the comment section if I'm some Arab or this or that, I am the literal beginning since Adam.
Now, though no one is actually truly black or truly white, as you see here, and though in the moment it may be commonly said to call a person the color black or the color white, not only when you look at a crayon who is actually black or white, let alone when you look at a color spectrum, they are not actually colors in and of themselves. Once more, all of the human race are of Adam, and as well as it meaning humankind, human or man, its root meaning is related to ground or red. From a purely biological standpoint, classifying all humans as brown is accurate, is correct, as of course our bodies are biological entities. And for anyone thinking you were just referring to Adam, meaning red, brown is a form of red. So once more, not only, regardless of their apparent appearance, all humans are considered shades of brown, and again, regardless of their apparent appearance to you, all humans are 99.9% the same when it comes to our DNA, further proving all are of Adam and Eve. Now, with that being clear, hold it in mind as you see this coming up next, as I have been continuously called, quote, black or quote, white.
And Jesus was not a white man like me, nor was he as black as some of you. We don't know what the color of his skin, but it must have been a dark color like the people of his day, because he was a man like them. Don't ever say it's a white man's religion or a black man's religion. It's a world religion. He belongs to the world.
And to whoever just asked me in the comment section if I'm some Arab.
And now that I've heard Arab quote in this conversation here for the first time, though of course it's hilarious that every single one of these times I've been referred to as anything came from an envious male ultimately, who wouldn't be saying anything in person, of course. It brings me to the fact that Abraham had two sons that of course couldn't have looked that far apart from one another, as of course, as you are seeing here, Ishmael, which was a son of Abraham, with Hagar, mother of Ishmael, was the father of the Arabs, and of course Isaac, the son of Abraham and Sarah, was of course the father of Jacob, later known as Yisrael, Israel. And now, as far as me stating,
I am the literal beginning since Adam.
Putting it very groundedly here and bringing more light to Exodus chapter 4 verse 22. Israel is my son, even my firstborn. You will see that there are 22 generations from Adam to Jacob, also known as Israel. This is a display of the complete control of the orchestrated order that is God's symphony, as just as there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, there are 22 acts of creation, and there are 22 generations from Adam to Israel, Yisrael. And to further ground the statement that I am the literal beginning since Adam, in Hebrew, the word Adam in acronym form serves as a calendar, as a clock, standing for since Adam to David to Mashiach, which means Messiah or Christ, bringing all the more light to the Psalm of David. I will proclaim the Lord's decree. You are my son, today I have begotten thee. And David to Solomon, but this word of the Lord came to me, he will be my son, and I will be his father. Speaking of Solomon. And here we will see a miraculous phenomenon, further proving exactly those words. Here we see the origins of a ceremonial custom that should a woman give birth to a son, after a total of 40 days, 7 and then 33, she will then be purified. And if she has a daughter, it will be twice 7, 14 days, and then also double the 33 days, 66. Twice that for a boy, for a total of 80. And then when we look at the book of Jubilees that was preserved and protected by the Hebrews in Qumran as one of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we see further depths as to what it means that Israel is my son, even my firstborn, as these ceremonies, these laws and statutes, this history has been recorded, preserved, and protected since Adam and Eve. And as we see here, this ceremony is in commemoration of the first two, Adam and Eve, and a reminder that we all come from the first two. Once more, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And as aligns with twice 7, the 14th verse of this chapter states that this is a law for Yisrael to keep for all days, as Moses and the Israelites were preserving what was since Adam and Eve. 7 days plus 33 for a total of 40. And by the grace of God, upon reflection, we see a miraculous alignment that the reign of David was 7 years in Judah and then 33 years all of Israel for a total of 40. And even deeper still, just as a part of the completion of that commemoration when it came to the female was the number 80 altogether when it comes to the commemoration of the beginning of mankind. And by the grace of God, the combined reigns of both David and Solomon are 40 years each for a total of 80. And as we are able to behold that David reigned for 7 years in Judah, directly overlaying with the 7 days for the birth of a male as held in Jubilees and Leviticus. 6 months overlaying, of course, with representing creation done on the 6th day. And also then 33 years ruling all of Israel, directly aligned with the completion of the 40 days outlined in Jubilees and Leviticus. And a part of the completion of that commemoration, the 80 days for the birth of a daughter, we see the combined reigns of both David and Solomon equal 80. This alignment of the reigns of David and Solomon, along with the commemoration of the creation of Adam, completely bringing all the more understanding to Israel is my son, even my firstborn.
The term Adam.
Brother.
Go ahead,
Did
Angel.
you even answer the question? Did the devil deceive the whole world, as is mentioned in Revelations?
Angel, that is a parable. How many people are deceived in this moment? Of course, that's a complete parable. And
if it's a parable, what's the meaning of the parable? It means that everyone is deceived, right?
no, what I was bringing out is the truth is revealed in time, and our original calendar is even expressed in a pyramid in quote Chichen Itza, the 364-day calendar, which has a phenomenon that takes place twice upon the equinox.
You just go ignore the question.
I didn't ignore the question, Angel. Literally, this proves Genesis 11 verse 1 that all the world was of one language. So how could the world be deceived in time?
Because the devil...
The language is the lie. They all speaking the same lie.
The Ethiopian...
Everybody's speaking the same lie. Did you know that, brother, did you know that Israel was created on the map May 14, 1948?
I'm not talking about your map makers. The thing is, you can actually see different...
No, because you're saying things that are not true.
Well, the thing is, when you look at the Bible today, for example, it's stating Megiddo and Jerusalem. When you look at a map today, you could actually see that Megiddo and Jerusalem are only miles apart. To clarify, Megiddo and Jerusalem are between 60 and 80 miles apart, bringing attention to the fact that these locations recorded biblically in ancient times were done so with such an accuracy during a time where we were traveling on horseback, camelback, donkeys and mules, chariots, and you see the accuracy of these recordings via modern day maps today. They didn't create that in the 1900s, I guarantee you that.
What we're trying to tell you, brother, the things that you're talking about are not on a map. Jerusalem is not on a map.
It is indeed on a map. You could see it to this very day. In fact, the battle that happened with Joshua, when it stated that the sun and moon were stayed, every place that is named in those actual scriptures, you can see on the map, literally to this very day. They didn't create that in the 1900s, Angel.
These videos clarify all the more what was meant by the sun and the moon being stayed in the book of Joshua.
So, brother, when it talks about in Revelations 21, it says that I saw a holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. So, if the new Jerusalem is coming down from heaven, the new Jerusalem, where is that Jerusalem?
Okay, it's not in Ethiopia. That text said absolutely nothing about Ethiopia.
Talking about Ethiopia.
Okay,
just
good.
say where the new Jerusalem is at.
Now, that same Jerusalem is to have a temple rebuilt. This is the renewed Jerusalem. It is still the same geographic location. However, with that temple rebuilt, it is indeed the new Jerusalem.
So you're waiting on an actual temple, like a building?
I'm not waiting on it. These steps are a long way to creating it.
But is it a real building though?
It will be indeed.
Well, God doesn't dwell in things made with man's hands, brother.
Oh, I didn't say exactly that.
Now, before getting deeper into that last statement, here are books, chapters, and verses clearly showing that the temple is indeed a physical edifice, a house for the name of Yahweh. And as this clarifies, we will return to one of the last statements made.
Well, God doesn't dwell in things made with man's hands, brother.
Oh, I didn't say exactly that.
As we see here, it is recorded that when the first temple was built, a dark cloud filled the temple. And then Solomon goes on to state, the Lord has said that he would dwell in a dark cloud. And as we see in Exodus chapter 19, as well as chapter 24, Yahweh appeared to Moses in a thick cloud. And being outside of the temple, we see that the cloud is a part of thunder and lightning. And upon close review is directly aligned with a translation of Genesis chapter 3, verse 8. Then the man and his wife heard the thunder of Yahweh, God, going back and forth in the garden in the wind of the storm. And they hid from Yahweh among the trees of the garden. This speaking of Adam and Eve. As here we see a direct connection with the presence of God coming in the form of lightning, thunder, storm, which of course brings on clouds. And now with that connection being all the more revealed, we will return to this statement.
Well, God doesn't dwell in things made with man's hands, brother.
Oh, I didn't say exactly that.
Of course, God being the creator of all things, we return now to 1 Kings chapter 8, where it states, "But will God really dwell on earth? The heavens, even the highest heaven, cannot contain you. How much less this temple I have built." And to be clear, not only is it a mistake to think that any commonly share root or anything of the like is directly borrowed from another language by the Hebrew, but here you are about to see further proof that the original Hebrew script is the original script of the human being, and proving via modern day archaeological findings not to be younger than cuneiform or hieroglyphics. We will begin with the mathematical structure of the script, which is originally a Hebrew trait. Here we see how the formation of the numbering system was preserved throughout the years by the Hebrews. Here you will see proof that the hieratic is actually the original Hebrew characters. When you look it up, you will find that there have been hundreds of archaeological findings of this Hebrew hieratic being used throughout the Davidic kingdom's time period. You will also find that writings by the Zadokite line, which is the line since Aaron, brother of Moses, were also done in this original Hebrew, which highlights all the more why Aaron was with Moses confronting Pharaoh with the information that proves Israel is my son, even my firstborn, as well as other scrolls found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, as it has been so far in Israel. Not only what has been called the oldest written, quote, religious inscriptions found in these original Hebrew characters, but as you are about to see here, a scholar in regards to these subject matters, of course, prefers to call the hieratic script that they discovered at Qumran Hebrew hieratic. Now, archaeological findings are now proving that, quote, hieratic, that original Hebrew script, did not come after hieroglyphics. And furthermore, as you see here, archaeological findings are proving that ultimately that original Hebrew is also not younger or after the writings in Sumer. And as you see here, unlike what was held as usual secular consensus, it is indeed this Hebrew that later the Canaanite and Phoenicians also used without gematria. Now we'll again take a look at further gematria and mathematical alignments, such as the numerical equivalent to the first verse in Genesis 2701, the 73rd triangular number, the formation of a pyramid, continue to reveal the genius in our Genesis. As Genesis 1:1 and those 7 words consisting of 28 letters, which is the 7th triangular number that foreshadow the outline of the 7 days of creation, mathematically form the last of the original 7 wonders of the world, and is held to be designed by the 7th patriarch since Adam, Enoch. Now focusing further on the subject of gematria, as we saw further proof of earlier, it is indeed an original Hebrew trait and has been studied, let alone respected, by some of the most prominent minds in our history. Just as the 6 days of creation, upon closer reflection, show order, let alone mathematical structure, such as the mathematical constants serving as infrastructure to our universe, as does mathematical structure apply to our original script. And just as in time, even in what may not be surfacely visible, we are able to see the orchestration of organization, of structure, of sequence, and gain further depth of knowledge and understanding when it comes to the composition of communication with our original script. Gematria may also serve to gain further knowledge and understanding when it comes to what may not be surfacely visible, at least immediately. For example, the masterful, elegant artistry displayed in Psalms 23, where we again see a purposeful pattern in composition. We will be seeing other examples of how gematria is embedded with deeper meaning. Within Psalms 23, we see a portrayal of things that can surround one in one's life, be it good or be it bad. Yet in the center of it all, in the eye of what could be a storm, it is with us. As here we see an intentional layout and structure of 26 words on each side of "For thou art with me," in the center of being flanked by 26 words on each side. Now soon we will again go deeper into how the world was of one language, and that language was what we know of today as Hebrew. But first we'll begin with both modern and ancient evidence that the angels in place and time from Adam and Eve, known as the Greeks, ultimately received their alphabet from the angels known as the Hebrews, and not those angels that were ultimately called the Phoenicians. Once more, on top of modern day research, such as what is referenced here, there are also ancient sources which hold that the origin of the Greek alphabet was directly from the Hebrews. On top of the records of the statements of Eusebius, there are also those from Aristotle tracing back the timeline of the use of gematria, also called in that time and place isopsephy, where he states the use of gematria is a Pythagorean tradition. And as we trace, match, and align records through history, alignments such as Hermippus stating that Pythagoras owed all of his theories to the Jews, the Yahudim. And on top of those historic sources, there are also the parallels within the mathematical sciences, as you see some examples of here. Now, just as our original calendar and the pyramid known as the castle serves as proof of the world at one time being of one language, just as it was held in Genesis, we are going to see how mathematical expressions within gematria serve to prove the same, and that original language was indeed the Hebrew, and the script thereof, as you see evidence of here, being what was once called hieratic, meaning priestly, as it was passed to and then passed from Enoch, and that name, Hebrew, stemming from one of the descendants of Adam and Eve, and ultimately of Noah and Emzara, great-grandson of Shem, Noah's son, and the father of Peleg, as it is held that in his time the world was divided from that one language. The original Hebrew, the original 22 characters and numbers infused, and then ultimately the separation of those numbers and characters came in time when it comes to the 10 divine numbers. Just as the Hebrew script is rooted in a base 10 decimal system, our biblical texts are also based off a base 10 decimal system. In our genetic code, our genetic texts are scientifically shown to be synchronized, to be structured by a decimal system, a signature of God within our very cell, further proof that you are the very crown jewel of creation. Amongst the intricate inner workings and mechanics of our genetic texts is the highlight of what many know as angel numbers. Studying the amino acids of our genetic code has found that the standard blocks and side chains, which are a part of those amino acids, in sync with the decimal system, repeatedly showed balanced sums which took the unique form of angel numbers. This uniform structure made apparent by the divisibility of 37, which when timesed by its reflection equates to the mathematical equivalent of the first verse of Genesis. As here we see a very specific and special characteristic of the number 37 within the scope of the decimal system. As here, upon review of this table of the multiplications of the number 37, you will notice a distinct pattern beginning at 37 times 3, our first pattern of angel numbers. Now, you'll notice that 37 times 3 is 111. 111. You'll also notice that adding the angel numbers together comes out to the number we just multiplied by 37. Now skip 2 digits over, of which we are multiplying by 37, and the pattern commences again, as 37 times 6 is 222. 2, 2, 2. And when we add together those 3 2's, it comes out to the number 6, which we multiplied by 37 to come out to 222. This pattern persists while the digits are in triplet form. Further detail as to the unique design embedded within 37 is in between those angel numbers. Those columns are permutations of the same numbers. For example, the column of 37 times 1, 37 times 10, and 37 times 19 are each permutations of 0, 3, and 7, as you see upon closer review. That characteristic takes place within the 2 columns in between the angel numbers, as you are seeing here. And now, before we return to the conversation, it is also good to note that as much as we have been speaking here about what the Romans have done, to note that the book of Revelation that the angel referenced with regards to the temple was not only written by someone whose work was used as a part of the foundation to the early Roman Church, but is generally dated to have been written shortly after the destruction of the actual temple in Jerusalem.
This does represent, indeed, the completion, the crossing the T and dotting the I of this history, which is indeed fact, not just parable.
No, the history that you follow is from the Roman Empire that colonized the world with false doctrine.
I was just about to ask Upgrade with Yah that I wanted to go back to her mentioning that the scrolls in the Bible today state the same thing still. In the Ethiopian canon, there is a book of Enoch in particular, which holds a 364-day calendar, which actually begins in the spring, as it says in Exodus 12, verse 2. And this, as I was stating, this very calendar is expressed in the calendar castle pyramid in Chichen Itza, which proves Genesis 11, verse 1, that all the world was of one language. This is the actual history that I am speaking of, not parable, Angel.
I got a question.
Yes,
What do
ma'am.
you think about the parable that states, my ways are not your ways, or my thoughts are not your thoughts, and your thoughts are not my thoughts?
Well, I think that that goes along with what I was saying before, that everything is revealed in time when we're able to look back. For example, there is an angel.
Do you choose the time?
I
Or
didn't.
Did God choose the time?
Oh, always it's revealed by the grace of God, as I said earlier. In fact, this might highlight it a little bit more for you. I was speaking with an atheist that was trying to say, if God controls everything, why are people unalived by the ground, basically by the thousands every year? And if we go back to Genesis, we will see that Noah was named a great comforter because the ground was cursed. And when we look back, it's easy to reflect, of course, that this all has been a lesson since the garden. And yes, indeed, it is God itself that controls time. Now, excuse me, angels, I won't take too much more of your time. But again, if Yaju ever wants to speak directly, of course, I'm not difficult to find. And I respect you, angels. Please excuse me. I understand that you are up here, literally holding your ground. And I basically just dropped in on you. With respect, excuse me. And unless you have any more questions for me, well, we can pretty much end this conversation here, my angels.
All right, peace, brother. We don't have no questions for you.
Thank you. Take care. And peace to you, Angel.
I actually want to, peace. I actually want to read that, and I'm trying to get the KJV, but I got the NIV up, because I think people.
Now further proof of the statement that it is God that controls time, as in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Here we will go back to the first conversation shared here and play a little bit of the conversation which took place just before me, and with your God-given judgment decide if it is not the very same voice of a person involved in initiating the conversation between I and a bunch of pretenders claiming to be a camp which believed in our true history, which ended up being a bunch of atheist agents, just as I stated. In other words, they were immediately in that conversation. So in further revealing,
it is God itself that controls time.
Here, as I just stated, I'm going to play a part of the conversation which took place just before mine, when it came to the first conversation shared here, and discern whether or not for yourself it is not the very same person that I was speaking to just recently when it came to dismantling what ended up being some wannabe undercover atheist camp though again, there is nothing undercover or unknown from God ever.
Blasphemy, bro. But you said you wanted to leave on a good note. How you want to leave on it?
Oh, that's it.
Repent, brother. Please don't say that no more. Okay. I said Paul is trash, and if we agree Paul is trash, then we don't have no conversation. Blasphemy, bro. But you said you wanted to leave on a good note. How you want to leave on it?
Oh, that's it.
Repent, brother. Please don't say that no more. Okay.
And now let's gauge the reaction from the end of a conversation with him and the end of a conversation with me, the actual Christ, the Mashiach.
Crazy. Hold on, what am I missing, bro? Hold on. Yeah, my dad, this is... Where in Jeremiah does it say? That's crazy. I want to see this line.
Oh, that's it.
Repent, brother. Please don't say that no more. Okay. That's crazy. I want to see this line.